Nico, thank you very much for joining and to present and filter all the news that are happening right now in Italy. So that's definitely something always worth mentioning. So without further ado, I'll definitely start on with the news of the week. So we can definitely start with, we have a lot to talk actually, like different kind of verticals, a little bit of acquisitions, a little bit of machine learning and language processing. So what was your field this week for you?
Well, it is good. It was a good week, Giacomo. Let me begin by thanking you for hosting this chat as always, doing a great job. And so it was a great week. In translated, raised $30 million, in around that by Ardian, who's a multi-sector investment, let's say family office slash private equity, I would say. Yep. Actually, I was reading the story of Ardian because I only knew the company by name.
Okay.
I don't know whether you had the opportunity to take a look at it, but
yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and it's interesting because like a few deals that we've seen this week really are led by non-conventional venture capitalists. So not really private equity fund. I mean, more on the fund side and on the investment management side. So yeah, tell us more about Ardian for sure.
Well, not so much. I was quite surprised. It was basically it was born as a spin-out idea, and the founder is a woman actually. I don't remember her name, but if you go on the house, probably like Dominique, and she grew the firm in quite not so much time. To more than $100 billion as a manager. So Dominique.
Wow, very interesting. Very interesting.
Look at that picture. We are looking at the website. There were like 4 pictures of the 4 probably most members of the board, I believe. And there's only one lady. It was actually Dominique who set up the firm.
That's awesome.
That's congratulations to her for the result. But back to the news of the week. Ardian actually led the round in Translated. Translated is I don't know whether to call Translated a startup. Because it is
I don't think so. It seems like it's more later stage because there is a big, they have a lot of customers essentially, and a lot of translators professionally, they're using it. So briefly, I think for the people that are following us, Translated, and then correct me if I'm wrong, works in the field of essentially using machine learning and AI to optimize translations. And so trying to automatize it in a very significant way, especially for professional translators.
Yeah, exactly. I think you nailed it. But without substituting men for the machine, actually the machine empowers the professional translators in their work. Right. And it has international customers. It's a very successful company in Italy. This one is the first round it raises. It was bootstrapped by the founders. One of them is Marco Trombetti, who I know very well and admire. He's a great entrepreneur and investor.
Nice.
He's also the founder of Pi Campus and incubator in Rome, in a wonderful location and hosting great teams actually. So I'm very happy about this round. It's a very good signal for the ecosystem. Let's see what are the next steps for Translated.
No, for sure. I mean, natural language processing is definitely something very hot, and I feel that a lot of late-stage investors are looking into this kind of space because it's very functional, it's very enterprise sort of driven. Like these guys, the Translated guys, they offer enterprise services. So it's always a big play when you work with big companies like Airbnb or Google, Expedia. So it's definitely a good sign, a good signal, as you were saying. It's not just a startup, it's really like a business which is empowered by tech in a very significant way. So that's very interesting for sure.
Yeah. Look, think about it. Think about it. So you know that we all think of Google as a huge translation machine.
Yeah.
And well, translated is working for Google and actually enabling the translation. So that's mind blowing if you think about it. There's an Italian startup behind at least part of Google services in translating things. Awesome. That's fascinating if you think about it.
Fascinating, absolutely. This week in particular, we also have another sort of AI-based deal, which is Wonderflow. So if you can tell us more about Wonderflow, that's definitely something also interesting to consider.
Wonderflow is a Dutch company actually, but it is founded by an Italian team. I met Riccardo Osti, the CEO, something like 10 years ago, in one of his first entrepreneurial adventures, which apparently didn't end well. But he learned a lot, and he went on founding Wonderflow, and I think he did quite the standard funded trajectory. Acceleration in Amsterdam, a drug start accelerator, then I think 1 or 2 rounds, and finally the scale up round. For the listeners, Wonderflow just announced $20 million raised by Klass Capital, with a K. It's another very interesting deal.
Again, I feel it's kind of on the same lines. So we have an enterprise software which is extremely powerful and valuable for big corporation, and we can see partners like Philips, like DeLonghi, Colgate. So it's huge, and they're operating a very, very interesting space, which, by the way, I didn't know before. VOC, which is voice of customers. So it's a very, very narrow niche, which I had no idea it existed. So it's a subset of natural language processing, which you can immediately tell how valuable this thing can be. So for the people that are following us now, VOC is just simply like using AI and machine learning to elaborate an amazing quantity of data from customer feedback, being it reviews, messages, and everything that big corporations get from different sources. So that is definitely something which, which is extremely valuable. I mean, old school startuppers would, always relate with customer, have interviews, surveys, try to gather as much data as possible directly. This is just the same thing, but at scale. So that's definitely something worth looking into.
Yep, I agree with you. I mean, the voice of the customer is something that you hear here and then, because it's probably something that the marketing teams tend to relate to in a sense.
Yeah.
But as you're saying, the Wonderflow approach is quite interesting because it works. Comes to mind as a parallelism to aggregators such as Segment, something like that.
Okay.
Aggregate customer interactions with your firm coming from all directions into one single platform in order to analyze it. And that's probably where machine learning comes to help. Helping these big corporations to understand what's going on with their customers. So
and again, like it's a SaaS play, it's a software as a service for big corp. And again, we have a non-conventional sort of early stage investor, which is Klass. And this is cool because actually these companies specialize in enterprise software as an investment thesis. So they're like core thesis with this firm is really enterprise. And and that tells you a lot in terms of how big the sector can be, that there is like an investment firm that only look into those kind of deals. So it's something very cool. I've seen this in venture firms where actually funds, they focalize in enterprise software, and I've seen this growing. And this is definitely something also which has like a good space. So there is space for a lot of people in the enterprise space. Very interesting.
Think about it. I mean, for years, software was sold on premise and on license, and basically this is a revolution. Enterprise SaaS is a revolution going on. So I expect even more investors to enter this market, as you know, the offering mature. So
Awesome.
We're still in the early phases.
Yeah, let's go back to Italy. Let's talk about Kanpai. I remember these guys from some accelerators here in Italy, started from the Heroes and on, and they really pivoted their business model post-COVID. So yeah, what is your take on this?
Well, congrats on the guys. I mean, they're quite young and they've been very entrepreneurial. Kanpai started out as an event organization platform.
Exactly.
Consumer facing.
Purely consumer, correct? Yes.
Okay, and then COVID hit, so no more consumer events. And these guys were very smart and very nimble in pivoting the startup into the B2B, the corporate, let's say so, event organizations. And they created this platform where an event manager for a corporate can basically, if I get it well, it can basically pick all the aspects of the event that he wants to organize, and it will be, a turnkey solution. And then the event is there. You want to organize, I don't know, an happy hour for the management, just select where, when, which provider, and there you are. Quite an interesting offering.
Yeah, and they're really working on both the virtual side of it and the physical side of it. So if at the beginning was really putting together elements and tools to make physical events, and then they can ship into you and so on. Now they're also working on the new way of doing virtual events, where basically you receive goods and then the virtual event happens. I've seen also business model where actually cooking classes are happening in this way. You essentially subscribe, receive the box with ingredients, you have your Zoom call with a bunch of people, and there you go. You have a chef teaching you how to make the perfect tacos. And it works as a single event, but I think the big play that has been sort of running around is the corporate angle, where actually they do corporate events in this way, which is a good way to sort of bond with people even at a big distance. And it's a very good way to actually do some training and team building exercises in a way.
Yeah, I agree with you. And there are two more aspects into this, if you think about it. Cooking events are probably a small subset of what Kampaay can offer, one. And two, corporates as a customer are probably much more frequent buyers of such a service. So the economics are completely different rather than the consumer side of this business. So quite interesting.
I don't know. The only worry I have is that I see this tendency with US company where team building sort of events is very common way to build a team. Italy, I don't know how far it goes in terms of how many Italian companies are actually budgeting for these kind of activities. So maybe bigger companies probably they're more into their international spirit. So definitely that's the play. But a mid-sized company, I'm not too sure if it's something extremely hot right now. But definitely a great angle, definitely an interesting angle.
I don't know. It would be nice to find out, but that's a very good point.
Moving on, smart gym startup Akuis raised 1 million from business angels. So this is interesting because again, it's all the trend of essentially the home gym with a one size fit all sort of tool, being it a mirror, being it a dynamic band mechanism, which is obviously digitized and powered by data and so on and so forth. That's definitely something very, very cool.
Yeah. In this case, the play is probably built around this gym in the box. I don't know how to call it. But the basic idea behind this startup is to fit all the machines that you would find in a gym in a single machine. Occupying no more than probably I don't remember what 2 square meters.
2 square meters, correct. There you go.
Okay,
2 square meters, perfect.
That's fascinating. Again, an entire gym in 2 square meters. It seems that there were a few business angels who believed in the idea, and probably this is this is the right market. I don't know. I'm curious about this type of products after COVID. So as people can get back to gyms, get out of their houses again.
Totally.
But I mean, the genie is out of the bottle now. So.
And you have the great companies working on these things, being it the Mirror app, where actually with a mirror you essentially do a lot of like strength training and any sort of training, being it like corporate investor like Technogym, trying to develop these kind of tools. Goes without saying, let's talk about Peloton. Peloton kind of sort of opened this market in the US with all the home fitness equipment, which is digitized and social and so on. So it's definitely something worth considering, which is good also for Akuis, because then it gives them a lot of players that can be the happy purchaser of these kind of companies. So that's definitely something worth keeping an eye on.
Wow, that's a very good point. Yeah.
Right, moving on, let's talk a little bit about biotech. The ITATech funds invested 6 million into 3 biotech startups, AAVantgarde Bio, Alia Therapeutics, and Borea Therapeutics. I don't know much about these deals, and actually, ITATech, it's a technology transfer fund. So. What's the deal in Italy with tech transfer? So basically all the the Italian startup ecosystem was born kind of out of this tech transfer movement, being it from CDP or from some other like institutional investor. What is your take on this?
Yeah, well, so there's a long story behind all of this. So well, let's say, long story short, a few years back, Cassa Depositi e Prestiti, the let's say Italian National Bank, launched this ITATech initiative in collaboration with the EIF in order to fund specific VC funds specialized in technology transfer. Okay. So they opened this call and they said, hey, we are going to invest into a specific thesis, which is tech transfer. So apply for the call, and if you can manage to raise some more money to add 2 hours, we are happy to fund your fund. And as you can see, there were 5 ITATech funds actually funded in this way. And each one of these is specialized in a specific vertical, working with specific universities. So one of the binding rules of this call was that you had to team up with universities or research centers.
So the angle here is really to bridge the gap between research/university and getting a company off the ground, essentially. So this is where we're playing. Is there any great example, like currently active in the Italian ecosystem, coming out of these funds? Is there like I don't know much, so I'm asking, but I'm not too sure if I can think of one company specific that we can say, okay, there is something really cool coming out of this thing, and it's accelerating quick.
No one comes to mind, even though I've got one that it was. I was fascinated by the idea, invested by 360 Colimi, Phononic Vibes, from the Polytechnic of Milan.
Awesome project.
They created this. You know that. And that was quite fascinating, and actually something that it needed technology transfer funds because it was quite far away from the market at the time. So it was an interesting investment. That one comes to mind. I don't know much about the ones made by Sofinnova Telethon because they are specific in the biotech life sciences. Such as, for example, the 3 that they announced last week. I don't know much about them, but again, there might be something extremely big or fascinating, and I wouldn't know because that's not my bread and butter, as you well know. But the funds have been quite active, so they made a few investments, but they are quite new as well. So, and as you know, in tech transfer, you tend to invest quite early with low TRL. So it might take time to see something really cool coming out of there.
Very interesting. Definitely something though that Italy is like really good at. All the tech transfer game is played by a lot of people. So that's definitely something active.
Yeah, I'm not that positive. I mean, there we are. So startups coming out of university is something quite new in Italy. There are not so many of them successful. I mean,
sure.
Meaning scaling up.
Scaling, exactly. Moving from the phase of university idea to actually like a good scale up. I agree.
Exactly, and that's the idea behind ITATech. So to support this type of startups. Hopefully awesome. It will, accelerate some of these into becoming bigger startups, bigger companies.
Definitely one piece, one component of the ecosystem for sure. All right, let's maybe talk about one of the liquidity events, and then we can see we can kind of close down a little bit because we're already hitting almost 30 minutes. It was quick. This time was quick. It was a lot to talk about. It was a very, very interesting. So what I found particularly interesting was the Made in Italy fund, actually, which I was not aware of. It's more of a private equity sort of play where they actually try to fund companies, well, especially in the fashion space. I really like the angle. And they are playing in the wine sort of e-commerce space by acquiring a majority stakeholder in XtraWine. So we've seen this year in Italy a big deal happening with Tannico and the Kampaay group, and now these guys are sort of seeing what's also good in other sort of platform in the wine space.
Yeah, well, the wine space has been quite hot in Italy in the last few months. I mean, Tannico is probably the first one that comes to mind, but there was another startups. Vino.com, I don't know. There was another aggregation between wine e-commerces, and then there was another wine e-commerce startup who acquired a French competitor. But the name's elude me now. My apologies. And then there's Wine Livery, who's growing and doing quite well. Then there's this XtraWine, another e-commerce online. I think I read on the press release that it was making like 10 million euros sale.
Oh wow!
So not a huge e-commerce, but considering that's for wine, it's it's not sizable e-commerce.
Yeah. No, it would be interesting to see if it's only sort of. I see that mostly is I thought it was more Italian focused. Actually, you can really find a lot of things from all over the places. So that's definitely something good. I think there is a big game here being played also with all the subscription model in terms of wine boxes. I've seen companies sort of working in this space, and I believe that there will be someone nailing it before or later. And the wine delivery is definitely something extremely, people are trying to make it digestible in a way that is interesting, so you keep drinking and tasting. I've seen a few companies working on that, and not the easiest thing, but definitely something worth keeping an eye on for sure. Talking quickly about the Italian fund, I wanted to show just quickly. The Made in Italy fund. That's also a great idea, I feel. It's really like a very interesting way to promote PE, private equity, mostly in what Italy is excellent at. So being it Made in Italy fashion and other elements for sure. Very, very cool.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
And it is at the cross lines between private equity and venture capital.
Exactly. Interesting. So, interestingly, very good. Big congratulations to the United Venture guys for the growth fund and how CDP is participating. What is your take on this one? So basically, they're trying to essentially build a fund that is supporting sort of later stage companies. And, what is your feel on that?
Oh, well, it is needed. I mean, later stage funds are not that common in Italy right now, so it's good that there's another one entering the market. And the team at United Ventures is quite good at working at let's say between the early stage and the late stage type of deals. So this is good news. And this is probably, I think, the third fund we launched. And it was started with Team, the telecom company, as a cornerstone investor. So
these guys are everywhere. Team Ventures is impressive how they're in like some of the best deals happening in Italy, and they're always are like 5 steps ahead of any other company in Italy, probably. That's what I see. At least from the price, they look like that. I don't know if that's the case, but it's definitely good. It's definitely like a good company that is doing the right things and taking the right steps.
Well, they've been working in the corporate VC market since before I entered the startup market. It was like 2009, 2008. So I think they built some capability to operate and work with startups. So good to know that they have continued and scaled up their operations. And good to know that they're investing into let's say private managers, not just working with corporate VCs. So it's good that they're investing into the ecosystem. It's a good news.
Awesome. All right, so let's finish up with some data in terms of what has happened in Italy in the first half of 2021, and then Nico, I also have the data from US. Just to make
me cry.
Exactly, to make a fun comparison. So please support the Italian side, and then I'll switch on TechCrunch and show what's happened in the US in the first quarter, actually. But go ahead.
And the first quarter, you're going to, that's going to hurt. Well, Italy, it was a good semester. We recorded more than 600 million euros raised by Italian startups, which is a sizable number. Consider last year, in the entire year, Italian startup raised 700 million, 750, 780, depending on the source, on who's counting.
But on 12 months. On 12 months.
In 12 months.
Okay.
12 months. So that is a good result. And the equity crowdfunding had a sizable impact as well, almost 50 million euros. Within this number. So the goal for this year is to surpass the 1 billion raised by Italian startups. Awesome. Let's cross our fingers. So now US,
let's see TechCrunch what says. So according to PitchBook, in the US, only won 3,987 venture capital rounds for a total of a nice 69 billion US dollar in venture funding for 2021.
That's almost exactly 2 orders of magnitude in a quarter.
So we're getting closer. We're closing the gap. Really good.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. No, it was just to give an idea on the size of the market. The market, I definitely feel, and I'm sure you agree, it's growing. The interest of private investor, institutional investor, corporate investor is growing. Not of the size of the US for sure, but who cares? The point is really having good deals that are, that are a good size for the market and the ecosystem. So I think it's a good sign overall.
Yeah, totally agree. Let me see the glass half full.
Exactly. All right. So we have a guest on Clubhouse. So Elsa, if you wanna have a question, feel free to raise your hand so you can join the conversation. Otherwise, if there is nothing happening, I want to thank you, Nico. Thank you very much for this update. And I'll see everybody next week for the next round in the Week in Italian Startup.
I guess that's good. So I would say thank you, Giacomo, again for being the host of this episode, and see you in a week. All right. Have a great week and talk soon.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody.